humanity. Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Welcome to Talking Politics. I apologize for the lateness. Mayor Adams was supposed to show up with Attorney General Letitia James at Jacoby Hospital to present the hospital with a check, and I'll get into that after the introduction of weather. My name is Robert Press. I write for the Bronx Chronicle, as you can see by my official New York City press card. I also contribute to the Co-op City News and Parkchester Times. Also, the new Bronx News, which is, like this show, a part of Muslim Media Corporation. I also have a blog at www.100%.blogspot.com and Facebook pages 100% and What is Going On in Your Community Board. The views expressed on this show are that of the host, any guest, or anyone who is commenting at the bottom of the screen, and not necessarily those of Muslim Media Corporation. Let's go quickly to the weather. Today, there'll be a high of 85. Saturday, it should get up to 87. Sunday, 88. And Monday, 85, with lower humidity and no rain in sight for those 4 days. As for Mayor Adams and Letitia James, Attorney General James, notice when there was a meeting, like I said, that was supposed to happen, Attorney General James was supposed to present Jacoby Hospital with a check for $55,000 as part of the opioid settlement with Big Pharma. However, there was a protest that was planned against the Just Home proposal at Jacoby Hospital, set up by Councilwoman Christy Marmorato and others. It appears that notice went out at 10:24 a.m. that the mayor's office is canceled this event at Jacoby Hospital. And I was informed that prior to that, that Attorney General James canceled the press conference. Now, it is bad that they canceled it because Jacoby Hospital is a good hospital and deserves the $55 million it's supposed to get. And it would have been a nice press conference. Now, there were about 50 protesters to the Just Home proposal, like I said, led by Councilwoman Christy Marmorato. Now, I had spoken to Mayor Adams about that proposal on July 3rd, and he said it seemed like a bait and switch to him when the community was told that stage 4 cancer people would be put in there, and it then turned into as little as diabetes. So he was going to investigate that. I was going to hopefully ask him what he found out about the project, if it indeed was a bait and switch, or it was going to be indeed stage 4 cancer patients. So I did not get that chance to ask him. The community didn't get the chance, and you don't know what happened. Now, on to politics. I tried getting a Republican on here, but Donald Trump's speech was so long last night, they all fell asleep, and they're still sleeping probably now. So I couldn't get a Republican to come on who went to the convention to talk about the convention. But it ended last night with the acceptance speech by Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump, of the Republican nomination for President of the United States. His vice president candidate is Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. And over on the Democratic side, what happened here recently, President Joe Biden came down with a case of COVID. There are some people who are saying how conveniently, as there is rancor about him stepping down, and it has gone up to even New York Senator and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer saying maybe the president should step down, and because and Democrats are saying that they now see former President Trump winning a second term in office against Joe Biden. However, New York State Governor Kathy Hochul is saying that she is still supporting Joe Biden for president. Now, as far as Donald Trump goes, in case you didn't hear or know, during a rally near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the former president was shot with a bullet grazing his ear. He had a bandage on it during the convention. Secret Service agents pounced on the former president and then led him away. He held his fist up to show that he was all right. And at the Republican convention, you really would never know that he was shot, because he was as crisp as he was in 2016, thus making Democrats worry even more that the Republican-led Congress will get even more members, and the President Trump will be stronger than ever. Now, what could a second Trump presidency mean for New York? Long gone are the days in which a Queens-born celebrity developer conquered Manhattan. Once a reality TV star with his name plastered across New York City tabloids and buildings, Donald Trump's hometown has rejected him in his 2 presidential elections, mobilized in mass protest against him, canceled contracts with his family organization, stripped his name from private properties, and most recently, that's including the Trump Links that was in Ferry Points, which is no longer Trump Links, is now Bally Links, who wants to put a casino there, which Donald Trump didn't. And Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, had him convicted of 34 counts in a hush money trial. Now Trump, though, is again the Republican presidential nominee, basking in the turmoil as Democrats scramble over Joe Biden's continued viability. Former President Trump resides in Florida now as of 2019, and his relationship with New York State and city elected officials was often tense during his time in the White House. It's even worse now. Trump could very well win a second term, especially after the assassination attempt at the rally in Pennsylvania. The failed attempt will probably change both the messaging and direction of his campaign, likely enhancing Trump's standing. Polling already didn't look good for President Biden. Trump has even gone ahead in some of the key states and in New York, it's found that President Biden's lead had dropped 8 points across the state. In May, Trump held a fairly large rally in the South Bronx, hoping to entice minority voters. Now, other things that it could mean would be a more permanent end to congestion pricing, which Governor Kathy Hochul temporarily paused, which I and most of us believe will come back after Election Day. Trump, whose administration delayed congestion pricing for years, has again been a vocal opponent of the program, is even pledged to terminate congestion pricing in his first week in office. Back in 2019, after the legislature passed congestion pricing, the Trump administration deliberately stalled it on giving the MTA an answer on whether they require an environmental assessment or more in-depth environmental impact statement for the program to be implemented. There is also, he pledged to have fewer migrants, while Trump's administration enacted an unprecedented volume of executive actions related to immigration during his term in the White House. The state immigration in New York has changed drastically over the last couple of years. Nearly 200,000 migrants have come through New York City shelter system since the spring of 2022, many who remain in the city today. A swatch of these individuals are part of over 1 million immigrants granted humanitarian parole by the Biden administration, meaning that they're temporarily granted eligibility to work. Much would change under a Trump administration. He's threatened to roll out mass deportations of immigrants that he says are criminals and vowing to crack down on significantly illegal immigration. Many immigrants in New York would be impacted as a result. He says, I want the next president to end our border crisis, put a permanent stop to congestion pricing. New York City Council Minority Leader Joe Borelli said, that's how we can solve New York's problems, and it won't matter who's elected, Democrat or Republican. The Supreme Court has made some decisions that Congresswoman Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez disagrees with. Last month, a Supreme Court watchdog group reported that the Supreme Court justices have received at least $4.7 million in gifts over the past 20 years. Some were from billionaire GOP mega donors, others were from folks who had cases heard by the court. In the past months alone, the Supreme Court has ruled to imprison people for being homeless, stripped federal agencies of their law enforcing abilities, and granted Donald Trump absolute immunity for prosecution for crimes he committed as president, she said. The Supreme Court is in a corruption crisis beyond its control, so Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is taking action. She has introduced articles of impeachment against Supreme Court Justices Thomas and Alito, saying that this court is setting the stage for a Trump presidency above the law. If Congress fails to hold them accountable, it sends a dangerous signal to the special interests that are trying to buy their actions off for a fair gain. Now, I will say this is what's included. There is a level of corruption which is shocking by any standard of functioning democracy. Will you make a $5 contribution today so that AOC can keep fighting to ensure that no one, no matter how rich or powerful, is above the law? She says she wants the contribution. She has also joined ranking member Jamie Raskin to announce legislation barring judges from receiving gifts valued over $50. This is a tipping point, and inaction is a decision to further legitimize the Supreme Court, as Ocasio-Cortez says. We must go where the facts take us, whether or not you can contribute today. Thank you for standing with our moment in solidarity, Team AOC. Now, my question is, if the Supreme Court justices are going to be limited to $50, why don't we make our members of Congress and Senate limited to $50 donations? Now, we saw that the soccer cup was finished. Argentina won by 1-0 over Colombia after their star Lionel Messi got hurt. He pumped his arms. The trophy bounced up and down in his grasp. Tears of frustration from an hour or so earlier had turned to laughs and hugs for the two-time Copa America champion and World Cup winner. He was forced to watch most of the second half and extra time because of a leg injury. Still, Argentina won its second straight cup, beating Colombia 1-0 Sunday night on the 112th minute goal. Controller Brad Lander has assembled a team that is expected to announce litigation aimed at activating congestion pricing, which in the next several weeks, New York City Mayor Eric Adams has said that strap hangers could see weapon scanners in the subways by Monday, as officials touted a dip in crime in the beleaguered subway system. Will we see Governor Hochul run for re-election in 2026? That is 2 years away. It is the next election cycle for the state and federal government elected officials, which would include the statewide officials. Governor Hochul continues her prolific fundraising as she prepares for 2026. In the first half of 2024, she has raised already $5.9 million for her re-election, ending the period with over $13.5 million on hand. With the latest numbers, Hochul has so far raised a total of $16.8 million since the start of 2023, when she began her first term as governor. Her impressive fundraising numbers put Hochul in an early position to financially dominate anyone else who dares challenge her in 2 years' time. No other candidates have actually announced yet, but a few names have been floated around as either possible contenders. Hochul's immediate predecessor, Andrew Cuomo, has quietly made noise for years about launching a political comeback after his resignation in 2021. And his latest campaign finance filings show that he has paid Expedition Strategies nearly $70,000 to conduct a poll back in January, although some reporting has suggested that he's eyeing a run for mayor in New York City. An attempted return to the executive mansion is also possible. Cuomo has an impressive war chest from his nearly 3 terms in office and stepped down with a considerable amount of cash. He has gone through a lot of it, but he still has about $8 million in his campaign account. He has only recorded $5,300 in contributions for the first half of 2024. And then there is Lieutenant Governor Anthony Delgado, who sparked rumors about his own ambitions recently when he called on President Joe Biden to drop out. And he might be one of the winners here if President Biden does drop out, because he was actually probably one of the first, like I said, to call for, publicly splitting with Governor Hochul, who is one of the president's most ardent supporters. Attorney General Letitia James is also named that she originally wanted to run for governor in 2022, but ultimately decided to seek re-election before her campaign ever got off the ground. It was said by some people that she was told not to run for governor so she could prosecute former President Donald Trump. Then there is, on the Republican side, Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, who was elected to his position in 2021. He's also recorded a fair amount of donations. Rumors say that he's positioning himself for something new. In fact, he's raised more money and has more cash on hand now than he did for the same period in the last year that he actually ran for office. It is in this first half of 2024. He's raised nearly $641,000 and has over $1 million on hand as of July 1st. Of course, Blakeman has his own re-election to contend with next year as Nassau County Executive, a full year before the 2026 gubernatorial race. And Governor Hochul's campaign says that she's also raised $1.4 million for state Democrats, and she leads the party's position of $22 million. And I'm going to stop here now. I see it's time for a commercial. Before my producer tells me and puts up it's time for a commercial, let me go to a commercial now.
Undoubtedly, Africa is the best tourism destination on Earth. The continent is blessed with the most conducive atmosphere. To feel and enjoy these blessings, join the most productive one-week tour of the continent organized by Daylight Africa every September 2nd to September 9th to see beyond the fallacies about Africa on the mainstream media. Contact us at daylightafrica@gmail.com or call 718-822-5555. Daylight Africa. Revolutionizing tourism industries in Africa.
Okay, welcome back. The lobbyist who had been dating New York State, what is this? Today with profound measure, who announced this, AJ? The lobbyist who had been, Kenny Burgess, just resigned. That's interesting. I'll have to call up Kenny and find out why. Meanwhile, there'll have to be a special election in November for a seat then. Okay, the lobbyist who has been dating New York State Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie was recently laid off from her job as a construction labor management partnership, according to New York Focus. The decision prompted Assemblyman Speaker Hastie to place an upset call in late June with the labor group that employed her, according to two people who spoke on condition of anonymity in order to discuss a sensitive matter that involving Hastie and the labor movement. On the receiving end of the call was Mike Hellstrom, the co-chair of the Greater New York Labor Employers Cooperative and Educational Trust. During the call with Hastie, result of an organizational decision Am I okay? I'm back. Con Edison must be playing around here. So what happened is in June, the lobbying organization decided to get rid of its lobbying division, which had been viewed internally as duplicating lobbying by the Mason Tenders District Council, which is the lobbying branch of LECET. On to the mayoral candidates. Scott Stringer still can bring in the money. The former New York City controller announced that he has raised about $2.1 million, $412,000. It comes in $412,169 in net donations, plus about $1.65 million in expected matching funds from the city, since he began accepting donations in January for a potential primary challenge against Mayor Adams. Stringer received the donations from about 2,113 donors, according to the Campaign Finance Board. The average donation was about $195. The vast majority, about 1,800 of the donors, were from New York City residents whose donations are eligible for matching funds program, which provides an 8-to-1 match to the small donations up to $250 in the mayoral realm. Stringer received $206,792 in donations eligible for the matching funds program, which will translate into about $1.65 million in matching funds. In the financial disclosure, Stringer had 10 intermediaries who raised $23,985. I mentioned that because it was the intermediaries that got former controller John Liu in trouble. When they were looked at, it was said that they were not really from people. But let me continue with Stringer, who previously ran for mayor in 2021 and lost, said that he still has not made a final decision whether to challenge Eric Adams next year. Stringer was the first to announce a potential challenge to Adams, but he's not the only Democrat looking to take on the incumbent mayor. In May, State Senator Zelnor Myrie began raising money for a possible mayoral run. On Monday, he reported that he raised over $1.3 million, which is $325,811 in contributions, plus an expected $1 million in matching funds from the city campaign finance board. His average donation was about $178, according to the CFB, and he had 13 intermediaries, which raised $66,585. The incumbent mayor, meanwhile, has raised more than Stringer and Myrie combined. The mayor's campaign has continued to draw support from New Yorkers, raising more than $1 million over the last 6 months, putting the amount available to spend for his reelection at more than $8 million, which is close to the maximum allowed. Adams' campaign counsel, Vito Pita, said in a statement, Myrie's biggest challenge, though, in the race is not campaign funds, but a lack of his name, which is working when pardon me. A poll of registered Democrats of the top choices for mayor, 24% picked Adams, 21% picked Stringer, and only 5% picked Zelnor Myrie, though 50% said they were undecided. The race could get more crowded sooner, as current city controller Brad Lander is reportedly preparing to announce his own mayoral run in the next 2 weeks. Lander, as controller, has $651,707 in his account, which could be transferred to a race for mayor, along with the matching funds. Lander, who was elected in 2021, now finds himself in the same choice that Stringer had in 2017, whether to run for a second term as controller or risk it to challenge an incumbent mayor. Stringer ultimately chose to remain as controller, and Queens Assemblywoman Jennifer Ratkumar, who I had on the show a couple of weeks ago, a friend of Mayor Adams, has announced that she's exploring a run for city controller and has filed papers with the campaign finance board. Another name who is now announced, or is about to announce he's seriously considering a run for mayor, according to City and State, is Socialist DSA member Assemblyman Zoran Mandami. The state legislator has reached out to multiple people to discuss challenging Mayor Adams in the next year's Democratic primary. He is a member of the New York City chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America, and two people close to him said that his candidacy is something of an open secret with the organization, city and state. Another said that the New York City DSA citywide leadership committee discussed his potential candidacy at mayor at a meeting last week. However, in a statement, the New York City DSA co-chair Eric Thorpe praised Mandami's accomplishments, but declined to say if the socialist organization plans to support him. They have recently pulled their support of Congresswoman Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez because she had been supporting Biden, who is supporting Israel. The DSA is staunchly against Israel, as was seen through the candidacy of Congressman Jamal Bowman, who lost his seat. Now, as far as Controller Lander goes, in a new report ensuring timely trials, the New York City Controller has found that increasingly lengthy court cases processing times are dramatically inflating New York City's jail population, which has risen by 57% since 2020, he said, costing the city hundreds of millions of dollars each year. The report found that expediting cases in line with national practices could save the city up to $877 million annually and reduce the required capacity of New York City jails by 1,728, bringing the city closer to its goal of closing Rikers Island. No one should have to wait 3 years for their day in court, said, in the inhumane and violent conditions of Rikers Island or anywhere else, Controller Lander said. The increasingly long delays in the New York City justice system are not only violating constitutional rights of detainees, they're also wasting hundreds of millions of dollars in each year of New York City taxpayer money without making our city any safer. The report has several bullet points. The number of felony cases in Department of Correction custody that took more than 3 years to process increased 179% from 2019 to 2023. The Department of Correction spent $507,000 per person incarcerated on an annual basis in 2023, up from $182,000 in 2013. While the courts have met their own standards of 6 months to dispose a case for about 80% of felony cases in Department of Correction custody, the remaining 20% exceed that standard by only over 9 months on average. Aligning process times with national best practices, the city could reduce the number of beds needed in jails by 1,728, potentially reducing the cost of detaining individuals by $876 million per year. I'm going to read you something from the Bronx Times, which I don't normally do, and I'm going to give you my opinion on this article, which should be my last item, but let me just quickly say that there was a big pot bust on East Tremont Avenue in Community Board 10. It was at 3070 East Tremont Avenue in the Bronx, a seizure of 176 pounds of cannabis flower and almost a pound of THC vapes. Then they went through a back door at 4011 Tremont Avenue across the street in the Bronx that led to a warehouse where deputies found pallets worth of cannabis flower, THC pre-rolls, vapes, concentrate, and edibles. It seemed that this was a warehouse, and it said that likely more than $1 million of product was taken there. Okay, so let's go to this article from Bronx Times about affordable housing. According to information from the Department of City Planning, Bronx Community Boards 3, 4, 7, 9 have voted yes to the proposal, while Boards 2, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, and 12 have all voted no to the proposal of City of Yes for housing opportunity. Community Board 1 in the Bronx has not submitted a statement. Meanwhile, new data shows that some Bronx neighborhoods far outpace others in terms of affordable housing. The South Bronx, specifically in District 17, Bronx Times says, report represented by Councilmember Raphael Salamanca Jr., is the city's #1 leader in affordable housing construction. His district has produced the highest number of affordable housing units in the past year and over in the past 10 years, according to the New York Housing Conference. The city has made various efforts at engagement and outreach for its effort to build a little more housing in every neighborhood and level out the construction disparities. And despite the pushbacks from the City of Yes that they have seen from some neighborhoods, inaction here is not an option, said Dan Garadnik, the chair of the Department of City Planning. In an interview with the Bronx Times, Garadnik emphasized the human consequence of the city's housing shortage. Rents remain high for everyone. It is difficult to move around, and too many New Yorkers do not have a permanent home at all. High rents and housing scarcity are the direct result of local policies, according to Garadnik. And there is an urgent need to connect those dots so residents understand how the problem might be alleviated. He said ambitious initiatives like the City of Yes bring criticism from all sides, ranging from those who think it should be a pilot program to those who think it doesn't go far enough. We're going to strike a balance and take public input very seriously, he said. Zoning is a tool that sets boundaries of what is possible, leaving it to planners and developers to ensure responsibility of what is put in place, Garadnik said. In his view, the proposal is not a radical change from what already exists in the city's varied neighborhoods. The city's distribution of new affordable housing has not been equal, and the newly updated New York City Housing Tracker shows the public and council members who are saying yes to the housing and who's not, said Rachel Fee, executive director of New York City Housing Conference. In the Bronx, some council districts like Salamanca's rank near the top in the city for affordable housing production, and others like Christie Maramato's, they say, in Eastern District 13, ranked near the bottom. District 17 has added 5,916 units of affordable housing since 2014, far outpacing the city average of 1,557, while District 13 has produced only 104, they say. However, though, for the year 2023, with citywide average of 279 units, District 17, they say, still added 1,266 units, while District 13 produced close to the average with last year's at 265. Now, something's wrong here. They say 104 units, and now they're saying 265 units. But let me continue. Housing tracker information shows that Central Brooklyn and the South Bronx are shouldering most of the affordable housing burden. I think this data shows we can do better, Fee told the Bronx Times. New York Housing Conference supports the city of yes for housing opportunities, said Fee. So naturally, she's going to be screwed in what she says. And I'll tell you the reason Central Brooklyn and the South Bronx have more affordable housing. It's simply because the cost of land is cheaper in those two areas. Like I said, first, the article says that since 2014, District 13 produced only 1,400 units. And it should be noted that Councilwoman Christy Marmorato took office January 1st, 2024. So don't give us any comment, any numbers from before January 2024 saying that she has not produced any new housing. In 2024, District 13 has almost 1,000 new units of affordable housing coming online. And with the Metro North rezoning, 7,100 of the 7,500 supposedly new affordable units of housing are in Council District 13. That equals 8,100 units of new affordable housing in District 13 since 2014, compared to only 7,182 in District 17. And like I said, lastly, the NYHC supports the city, yes, for housing opportunities mentioned in the article. So, Ms. Fee, when you talk about affordable housing and district, get your numbers right. And I'm going to close there. AJ, I hope you would agree with me on that. And my viewers, I once again want to apologize to those live viewers for the 1 hour pushback. If you're watching me on YouTube, it didn't matter because you're going to watch me whenever you want. And I want to say thank you for watching. Hopefully, I can get a Republican on the show next week and we can talk about the convention. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted, and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your product and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the website they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our news site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep. New York Parrot is born to prosperity.